Natasha Q from Intolign, and welcome to another heartfelt chat. Alright, I guess I'm quite happy. But then I realized that we're going to talk about death. So yeah, I think that's a part of the video because I'm going to be talking about death from quite an interesting perspective. So I think usually the topic of death is very heavy. It's very sensitive. I think we tiptoe around it because we want to be sensitive to people's feelings, whoever's experiencing grief or who have lost, someone. And I think we should do that. But at the same time, I think death has become like a really taboo topic where we don't talk about it at all. So Joachim and I, when we were living in Switzerland, we had this beautiful, beautiful old lady who lived directly upstairs above us, and we became good friends with her. She's such a beautiful person, and every time we have meals at her place or at our place, we would have just the most natural, greatest conversations. And in Switzerland, the typical culture when it comes to social settings is like you're pretty polite. You don't really get into people's business. You keep that personal space. You can complain a lot. I do think that's within the communication culture within Switzerland and getting to know people and finding common ground. You can always complain about something, but usually you don't go like straight to the heavy stuff. I don't think that's like culturally the norm. So this is an old Swiss lady, very Swiss in fact, but she's really open-minded. So every time we went to see her, we talked to her, we always get deep into some topic. So we're unafraid to talk about stuff that's important, stuff that's sensitive. So we were just having a beautiful meal, and out of nowhere, and sometimes Joachim does this, so be careful if you invite him over to your place. Out of nowhere, Joachim says to her, "Oh, what are your thoughts on death, on dying?" And this is a lady in her mid-70s, so this is definitely slightly relevant to her. Oh, why am I laughing at that so hard? But so it could be seen as something quite insensitive, right? Like, you're asking an old person what they think about dying? Well, it's kind of like the big elephant in the room. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. But no, Joachim mentioned it. And so she just sat there and she's thinking about it, and she goes, and this is the thing, the mood of that lunch did not change at all. It's not like Joachim brought up death and it's like dun dun dun, oh now we're in like the dark zone, now we're now we're talking and now things are serious and like the mood changes. It's all, nothing like that happened. It was still light, beautiful connection, nothing energetically shifted within that lunch. And she just thought about it and she said, well, it's not that big of a deal because I know that just like you're born, then you must also die. So that was her response. Like, yeah, well, it's a part of life. What can I say? And that's really interesting because I do know that for some people, some older people, elderly people, especially like death is still a big fear, a big mystery, and something that people can't accept and can't, respond in this lighthearted, matter-of-fact, accepting way that our old neighbor did. And I thought that was a really beautiful response from her, and I thought it was funny that Joachim just went straight there, didn't see it as a taboo thing, wanted to genuinely know, and that was her answer. And I thought that was really beautiful. And personally, my grandpa is getting quite sick at the moment. He always had lung issues, but now he's kind of at that point where it's kind of really failing him, and we're seeing that impact his health like never before. It always did, but now it's really impacting his health. So all my mom and her generation of people are kind of needing to deal with potentially a death here, right? So I'm not going to get too much into my family and things like that, but I'm talking about how this topic appeared on my brain and why I want to talk about death with you. It's because it is on my mind, and it's definitely relevant for my family right now. And I think death is something quite special because we don't think about it often unless we have to. But I think how the living, so people like you and me, how we respond to a death is also very, very interesting. Because when my dad passed away, that was the first funeral I went to. So I didn't have much expectation about what to see, what to hear, what to experience at a funeral. But I was really surprised that a lot of people's responses weren't about my dad and the life he lived and that kind of thing. A lot of people's responses to a death was their, how do I say this? It's like their role. So whether they can't do something with that lost one anymore, deceased one anymore, whether they could have done something while they were still alive to prevent the death, or like self-blaming, or thinking for the person who has passed away, oh, how they won't be able to live this or experience this anymore. I was really surprised that rather than focusing on the person who has passed and their life and celebrating them and making peace with them transitioning, away from this physical world, the majority of responses was about, if it's a really close one, to the one who has passed away, it's like, oh, what am I gonna do now? Oh, like, if they're gone, what does that mean for me? Or, oh, they passed away, or could I have done something to prevent it? Or humanizing the whole situation and projecting what they would lose, the one who has passed, like what they can't experience anymore, what they can't do anymore, and what, like, it's like a lot of projecting further loss. Yes, the person is gone, but then there's further projection about, oh, how they won't be able, for example, for me, they won't be able to visit me in Switzerland again. Oh, he won't be able to do that. So in reflection to that, to how people were expressing their grief and the experiences that those people were having, I realized that grief and that loss really isn't about the person who's leaving this world. It's about our loss and what we think we will lose. And the more someone has not resolved something with the one who's passing, the more emotional, the more stuff comes up. And it was really funny because for me, I experienced the death of my dad in a really peaceful way, and I found a lot of love, and I found a lot of respect for him, and it was really interesting. And I didn't find myself projecting the things that he would lose or not be able to do, or the things I wouldn't be able to do with him, a little bit at the beginning, but I just felt a lot of peace. And it didn't quite matter to me, like, my personal stuff with him. I just felt at peace with my relationship and with my dad. And I think it's quite fascinating because of the different reactions that you get. So I think that when it comes to death of someone close to you, our reactions can be a lot about what we're going through internally, what we are afraid to miss, things that we wanted to say to that person but we didn't get a chance for, or you didn't dare to, or you didn't push yourself to, things that you regret that you won't be able to do with them anymore. I think it's a lot of the grief and the responses to death is very self-centered. So, and I don't mean that in a bad thing, I mean that in a, well, if death is, a part of life, and if our response in our grief is all about what we wish we could have said, what we wish we could have done, the things that that person will miss, then let's turn that attention while we're living to ourselves and go, well, what don't I want to miss? What do I want to truly do? What do I not want to regret? Because that's what death is bringing in a lot of people, that kind of reaction. And if we can reflect upon that now and take action and do the things that we won't be thinking about later and regretting we haven't done later, then that's good. Then we don't need death to teach us that lesson. So I hope that this video has been at least interesting for you. It's my take on death, how I experience it, and how I know that death and grief and loss can actually come with a great deal of peace. It doesn't have to be all about regret and projections of loss and things like that. It can be actually quite beautiful. And I think that starts with the living and what you do while you are alive, and being courageously living now and not waiting for death to teach us a lesson, because I think that is too late, and that is usually quite forceful to learn in that way. So thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe for other random topics that I love to share with you about on my heartfelt chats, and make sure to hit the bell to get a notification next time a video of mine or Yahim's comes live. So let me know in the comments below, and let's start this conversation about death, how you have experienced it, the loss of a loved one, and what you think that regret has to do with it all, and what you don't want to regret not to do. So see you down in the comments. Bye!